I went really in depth in the last video where I was speaking about why it's important to shift your focus from making getting a wife your North Star to focusing completely on God, and why you need to shift that and how you can do that by focusing on your purpose in God's kingdom. But there was a topic in there that I kind of touched on. I spoke about it briefly, but I'll expand on it in this video. And it was the concept of committing to God honoring labor. Just to give a backstory of where I got this concept from, I was speaking to a friend from high school that I hadn't spoken to in a couple of months, and we were just catching up. We were having a catch up call, and we were speaking about like, what's going on in our lives and everything. And the inevitable topic came up, between like young Christian single men, right? It was the topic of finding your wife and everything, and we spoke about our experiences and our thoughts on the topic. And he shared with me this sermon by Vodi Bockham. I'm not going to say sermon, Vodi Bockham. And it was basically speaking about the characteristics of a biblical man, right, or biblical manhood, something like that. You'll find it very easily, right? And one of the things he spoke about in there that I found really, really important was the importance of committing to God honoring labor, right? He said one of the characteristics a biblical man has is he's very committed to God honoring labor. God does not like lazy people. He doesn't want you to be lazy. There's so many like scriptures in the Bible like, pertaining to that, right? But you must be committed to God honoring labor. It's one thing, obviously nowadays, we had the boom in like 2021, 2022, 2023, with like red pill and self improvement and like your Andrew Tate's and stuff. And Hamza's Imams and like there was this focus on like, oh, go like make money and be like rich, free yourself from the matrix, which is so important. Like you don't want to be like a slave to your company or whatever it is, right? But while that's cool, something I spoke on in the last video again was the story of Abraham and Isaac, where basically the moral of that story was God was saying to Abraham, you have this son that I've given you that you've waited so long for and you've been so faithful and I've delivered, but you love him a lot. And I want to test your faith. Do you love him more than me or do you love me more than him? Go sacrifice him, right? And Abraham was faithful. He was going to do it, right? And the lesson in that story is that you shouldn't put your source of security and significance in anything else other than God, because everything else can be taken away from you. Every single thing, your wealth, your health, your friends, your status, everything can be taken away from you. Everything that you love, and you cannot put anything above God, right? Like God, if we're speaking about like what God is giving you those gifts, and you can't put like the gift above the giver, basically. That's my catchphrase for that thing. For the story, but yeah, the important thing is that you cannot put your significance in anything other than God. And what's happening now, obviously, with like this boom and like go out there and get rich and stuff, is that you cannot put yourself in a position where everything like your North Star is focusing on making money and getting rich, escaping the matrix, and getting all these cool things in life. Like your focus should be on God, because all that other stuff can be taken away from you, right? God cannot. So your focus should be on God. Now, you need to commit to God honoring labor. That is, it's a nice catchphrase, God honoring labor. Like that's something you can remember very easily and very quickly, right? And you can remember it for a long time. Everything you do, right, in your life should be aligned towards your purpose in God's kingdom. And something I spoke about again in the last video. Not to make too many references to it. Your purpose in God's kingdom, right? If you're making God the number one priority in your life, as men, like we're meant to have purposes, and your purpose should be aligned with God, right? So it makes sense, like when you're focusing on God, your purpose is aligned to God, and you figure out what that calling is, right? And you do it just from going through life and speaking to God and seeking God-led counsel, right? But it's important that everything in your life is focused towards that purpose in God's kingdom, and your purpose is aligned to God, right? It is something that's from God, not anyone else, right? Not Andrew Tate, not Imam Ghazi, not nothing. Like it should be from God, right? And another concept I spoke about was the importance of being like an athlete, right? You think of an athlete who is aligned everything, like from their sleep, right, to what they eat, right, and to even just like the people they hang out with, like everything in their life is aligned to making themselves the best like athlete they can be, right? Same thing for you. Like picture that athlete who like let's go to Ronaldo, right? Picture an athlete who will wake up. He'll wake up at a specific time. He'll wake up early. He'll make sure he gets his sleep, like enough sleep. Like athletes need a lot of sleep, like 10 hours of sleep. He wakes up. He makes sure. I remember I was watching a thing on Ronaldo where he was saying he was going through his morning routine. He was like he goes outside and he gets some light. Some sunlight just like wakes his brain up and whatever. Like he does that. He has a nice like black coffee. Hops in the sauna, like things like that. Like, everything in his life is tailor made to making himself the best athlete he can be. The The same thing should be with you and your purpose, right? Everything in your life should be aligned towards that, right? If you have friends who are pulling you away from your purpose, you cut them off, right? If you have like an addiction that's pulling you away from your purpose, you cut it off. If you have habits, like, oh, you're scrolling on your phone at night for like 2 hours and then you're not getting enough sleep and then you're waking up tomorrow tired and it's very difficult for you to like work on your purpose as well as you can. You cut that out because you focus on God and you focus on your purpose. Everything in your life is aligned towards that, right? Now, I've spoken about your purpose, and that's obviously you should be God honoring, right? It should be God honoring labor. But the concept of God honoring labor in general, right? That can be anything. It can be anything. And I know a lot of people when speak about like serving in the house of God, people usually think of like the main things, like you have your pastor, your singer. Sorry, you serve on the worship team, your missionary, or you have like a gift of prophecy or whatever. But like really, you can do anything to serve in the house of God. You obviously just need to listen to God and make sure like God is the one who's leading you. But God can call you to go be in like the music industry, go like create Christian music and go out there and like evangelize people. God can call you to go to flipping China and start like a basement church. Right? He can call you to do that. God can call you right where you are. Right? He can call you in your corporate like godless company. He can call you there to go and evangelize people, to talk about your faith, right? And to pray for people. He can call you to do that. Like there's so many ways God can use you, and you just need to obviously make sure you consult with Him and you follow Him and you make sure that where you're going is in line with where He wants you to go, right? But everything you do should be God honoring. I want to use myself as an example because I feel like, yeah, well, I know about myself, so I can speak about that, right? So for me, I feel like my calling, as far as I can tell, is to bring community to young Christian men and inspire them, right? And I'm obviously doing that through like creating content and creating like an online community and everything. But there are also other ways that I can do that align to that purpose, right? An easy like one I can speak about is obviously church. Like I go to church and like I serve in the youth, right? Like that's obviously a way you can bring community to people. You go out there and you do that, right? You go out there and you listen to people, you talk, you make friends with them, and you make them feel like heard. You make them enjoy like coming to church. Like that's one thing, right? But at work, like I work in a corporate environment, like I work in accounting, right, in auditing, and there again, it's very like it's different. It's very compartmentalized. And one like switch I kind of had a couple months ago was that first of all, like wherever you are, God has planned for you to be there. No matter like God is the author of tomorrow. Wherever you are, you're meant to be. Like God has you there for a reason, right? Whether He's going to take you out of it like very soon after He wants you to realize something, or He wants you to do something there, right? God has you there for a reason. And for me, I was like, okay, for the next 3 years, I'm doing my articles, and I'm going to be working in this, high power, high pressure, like godless environment, right? Although in South Africa, it's not very godless. Like there are quite a few Christians, but I'm in this corporate environment, and for me, the way I really like jigged it was that I'm in an environment where I learn a lot. Like at auditing, dude, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of critical thinking skills. I learned a lot of people skills. I learned a lot of like time management skills, like learning how to prioritize. I learned a lot of life skills there that make me just a better person. And for me, I was like, okay, cool. Those are skills I can use and fuel towards my purpose, right? Like the ability to like think critically will always like that will always help you, like no matter what. Like if I'm trying to like build like an online community here, it's obviously going to be an incredible skill to use here, right? People skills, that's a no-brainer. Of course, I need people skills to bring community to people, right? Like those are things I learned there. And I was like, cool, that's a way that my work is aligned to God, right? To my purpose in God's kingdom. And that's God honoring. But also, another way is that like evangelizing in there. Like I was speaking to a friend who works like in auditing as well. He works in the same company as me. And he was speaking about how he feels he's called to like speak about evangelizing in the workplace. Like that's his thing. And I was like, damn, that's really cool. And it's definitely like needed because when you go to preach to church, I mean, 98% of like the men in the congregation like work. Like they go to work. They go to work the next morning. And they also have this mentality of compartmentalizing. And it's like, you need to go out there and preach to people. Like, that's a good thing. Like, that's his calling. And for me, I was like, actually, while I'm in like, the workplace, if someone asks me about my faith, speak about it, right? And another way that God can use you is that I remember the story from the Way UK. And I actually didn't watch the story. I just heard it from a friend who watched it. But basically, the story was that there's this guy who was an atheist, and he had this best friend who was a Christian. And the atheist is now Christian, not because of anything his best friend said to him, but just because he saw the way he acted. He saw the way he moved, and he could feel just like this something different about this guy. And he was curious, and he went to find out about Jesus and gave his life to Jesus, right? Like, God can use you that way, right? Like, literally just you just the way you move, like the way you act, because you're so like in tune with God. Like someone can feel this inexplainable peace about you, something so different, and you're like, damn, like what is that? And they ask you, and you speak to them about, oh, I'm Christian and all of this. Like, there's so many ways God can use you, but the important thing is that you commit to God honoring labor, right? And everything you do should be aligned towards your purpose, and your purpose is aligned towards God. So once you do that, you're committed to God honoring labor. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to speak about in this video. You guys let me know what you think of the topic. It's kind of niche-ish. I don't know. It's not very well spoken about, but yeah, let me know what you think of the topic in the comment section below. Make sure you hit subscribe to join the self improvement community, and until next time, I'll see you guys.